Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this Connect University session on digital opportunities and challenges for families in the time of COVID-19, which is aimed at parents of secondary school children. My name is June Lowry, and I'm a head of unit at the European Commission, responsible, among other topics, for the policy area of safer internet. Now, Connect University is a flagship knowledge-sharing initiative of the European Commission's Directorate General for Communication Networks, Content and Technologies, DG Connect. And it offers insight on both emerging technology, but also on the human impact of the digital revolution. Our online events are normally open to the public, and recordings are made available about a week after the live event. The links will be added in the chat, but you're free to visit the Digital Single Market channel on YouTube, where you can find all the Connect University recordings under the Connect University playlist, or direct yourself to the Connect University webpage on Futurium, where we also have a dedicated space, again, with all the videos. Now, given the format of our meeting today and the large number of attendees, we invite you to put your questions in the chat at any time, and indeed the questions have already started to flood in. To do so on Slido, please use the code online2, that's online all one word directly followed by the digit 2, to ask us the questions, and we'll allocate them accordingly and try to reply directly in the chat whenever possible and appropriate. And in case you have any network issues following the session, then please feel free to watch the session directly on YouTube and use Slido only for comments or questions in that case. And last but not least, if you want to post about the event on social media, then please use the hashtag #ConnectUniversity so we can see your comments as well. So to our topic of today, how to better protect and empower kids. Now, you may be aware that this Tuesday was Safer Internet Day, but you may not be aware that Safer Internet Day itself started as a European Commission initiative back in 2004. And in the intervening years, it has grown from being marked in a handful of countries to this week being literally celebrated worldwide in over 170 countries. And as we know all too well, the pandemic this last year has affected children's lives and moved them online for play, for education, for social contact in a quite unprecedented way. Previous family red lines and rules have all been rubbed out by COVID, as we all spend more time than ever on screen. But how can we give teenagers the privacy they need and not panic as parents at the thought of what they're doing online? With virtually all digital devices now offering high-quality camera and connectivity in a way unimaginable even 10 years ago, how can we talk effectively to this age group about the risks to their online reputation, to their mental health, if they share material unwisely? And when we as parents might be able to talk to our kids about sex and drugs and alcohol, we didn't grow up in the same digital world that our children face. And so we really don't have the same frame of reference. Well, our session today on digital opportunities and challenges could not therefore be more timely. And I hope it will give you confidence and knowledge and some practical tips and advice as parents to support your families in these challenging times. And I'm happy to say that it's not just on Safer Internet Day or Safer Internet Week that the Commission gives attention to the topic of child online safety and empowerment. In fact, the Commission has been at the forefront of protecting digital rights for children for over 20 years. And under this Commission, under President von der Leyen, both children and digital, as individual topics and as a joint topic, enjoy a lot of political attention. My unit manages the European Strategy for a Better Internet for Kids, the BIC strategy, which since 2012 has really set an international benchmark for child online safety. We work through funding, including funding of the Safer Internet Centres, who you're going to meet today, by contributing to legislation, and also through talking to a wide range of contacts, which includes industry, but also includes our wonderful Better Internet for Kids youth ambassadors, child participation being a very important part of our work. The cornerstone of our actions is the network of safer internet centres in the member states, Iceland, Norway, and the United Kingdom. They really are our eyes and ears, our hands and our feet on the ground. And I'm so glad you'll have the chance today to see for yourselves what experts they are. So for this afternoon, we'll have around 40 minutes of presentation by colleagues from the Irish Safer Internet Centre. That will be followed by a short guided tour by Carl Hopwood of the jewel in our crown of the big strategy, that is the pan-European Better Internet for Kids.eu platform. This website offers a wealth of resources for children, parents, teachers and adults in general in all European languages and on a wide range of subjects, as well as access to the helplines. And that should roughly leave us around 10 minutes for more detailed discussions on questions. So put them on the chat, we'll answer some as we go, and we'll talk about more later on. And I would just like to let any colleagues joining from the European Commission know about a lunchtime session on cybersecurity, which is coming up on the 24th of February, which is being organised by the Commission's Cyber Aware team. Also an important topic for these days. So that's enough for me. It's a great pleasure now to put you in the hands of the real experts, Jane McGarrigle and Katrina Mulcahy from the Irish Safer Internet Centre. Katrina and Jane, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, June. Hi, everybody. You're very welcome along to the session this afternoon, and thanks so much to our colleagues in the Commission and the InSafe Network for inviting us to talk to you today about our resources and provide some information and advice for parents on supporting your child online. It's a real pleasure to be here, particularly on the same week as Safer Internet Day, which was a very lively, active day in Ireland as well. So I'm just going to start sharing my screen, and I'll let you introduce yourself there as well, Katrina. Sorry.
Thanks, Jane. Hi, everyone. My name is Katrina Mulcahy. I am the Digital Content Officer with WebWise. So we've had, as Jane said, a very busy but really good week for Safer Internet Day. So lots of initiatives going on in Ireland. So I'm responsible for the digital and online content and also around our awareness raising campaigns as well.
Thanks, Katrina. And sorry, I should say my name is Jane and I am the project officer with WebWise. So delighted to be here. I'm just going to start sharing my screen there and hopefully everyone can see that. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Katrina. So the aim of the talk over the next 35 to 40 minutes is, I guess, it's to explore and discuss how parents can support their teens online. We're going to look at some of the opportunities, some of the challenges, some of the safety concerns, and some of the impacts of COVID-19 that's had on families, as well as providing some practical advice and I suppose initial steps for looking at online safety and advice and talking to your teen as well. We're also going to spend some time looking at one of the big topics we focused on this year, helping young people to manage their online well-being and build digital resilience, which is a particularly important topic as our young people and children have spent more time online than ever before. And as June mentioned, there'll be time for some questions at the end. Just a little bit of information about WebWise, our work, what we do, the aims of our programme. WebWise are the Irish Internet Safety Awareness Centre, so we're part of the Irish Safer Internet Centre, as June mentioned. We promote safer, better internet use among young people, and we do that through various strands of work. Our main core focus of work is we create and develop curriculum-aligned education resources for primary and post-primary schools to integrate online safety and digital citizenship into teaching and learning. And those resources address a range of topics, things like cyberbullying, image sharing, using social media, privacy, digital media literacy, data, a whole range of different topics. And I suppose The aim of our education resources is to celebrate the power of the internet and to highlight the benefits, as well as promoting safe online communication as well. We also provide teacher training and CPD. Wellbeing is part of a large in-school support service called the Professional Development Service for Teachers. So we work very closely with digital technologies and health and wellbeing team to provide schools and teachers with in-school support. And we also have free online courses for teachers as well in the area of internet safety and digital citizenship. We also run youth training programs, so our work with young people is central to our overall program. We're supported by a youth advisory panel who input to all areas of our work, whether it's our campaign, development of our resources. They also represent their peers at events and input to government issues and discussions as well. So they're very important to everything we do. We also run a youth training program. And this is a peer-led training initiative which centres around Safer Internet Day. So every year we train teenagers to lead online safety initiatives in their own schools and communities. And that's a great way to give students a leading role in online safety. This is an area that they're particularly engaged in and particularly interested in, and that matters to them as well. So really important that we listen to our young people and that they are the centre of our programme. And Katrina's actually going to show you some of their insights, which is really important to hear from as well later on in the programme. We're also responsible for the promotion and coordination of Safer Internet Day in Ireland, which you know was on Tuesday and was a great day in Ireland. That's a big part of our work and it's an important initiative. And I suppose what we would say about Safer Internet Day, it's not confined to one day a year, but it does allow us to all come together and highlight a really, really important issue for young people: online safety, promoting digital citizenship. And finally, we have information and advice for parents, and that's obviously the focus of today. You'll be hearing a lot more about that over the course of the next half an hour. So I think when it comes to talking about online safety, children, teens, it's impossible to address this topic without looking at the giant elephant that has been in the room for the last 12 months. The impact COVID-19 has had on families has been nothing, I suppose, like we've ever seen before. It has brought up lots of challenges for us, but it's also important to remember that technology has been a lifeline during this time. The internet has helped us connect and learn and communicate. So it's really important that we recognise and remember that, but it has brought challenges this year. And I suppose I'm going to take a moment to highlight some of the challenges that we've seen in Ireland, and I'm sure these are familiar across Europe. We know from speaking with our colleagues in the Safer Internet Centres, they're having similar experiences. So I suppose the first one that we were facing with as part of a wider organisation that works with teachers was the move to remote learning, and so many schools joining this space for the first time. So we spent a lot of time at the start of this providing helpful support on providing safe remote learning environments for schools, providing information and advice on how teachers can lead live lessons safely, and helping provide remote learning resources as well. Unfortunately, one of the concerns there has been around since the pandemic was, increased time online. Would that lead to increased risks? And we work very closely with law enforcement in Ireland, and we know concerns have been shared in Europol and Interpol. Law enforcement here did confirm that there has been increased activity on sites that share child sexual abuse materials. So we worked with law enforcement over the summer on a national campaign to highlight online grooming and webcam blackmail as criminal activities, provide young people with information on how to practice safe online communication, how to practice assertive communication, so the skills needed to say no, which is really important for our young people, and also pathways for support and help seeking, what to do if this happens you. And we're also supported by an excellent education programme for schools called Be in Control. as I mentioned, one of the topics we're focusing on this year is online wellbeing, and Katrina's going to talk to you a little bit more about that. So I'll not ruin it for everyone now. But one of the other topics we looked at this year, and again, I'm sure there's similar experiences across Europe on this, was concerns around the spread of false information. Sometimes when we think of false information, we think of presidential elections in America or Trump. But we were seeing real world impacts in Ireland all year over the rise and spread of false information, whether it was to do with government responses to the pandemic or even more recently around the rollout of the vaccine and concerns there. This continues to be a big issue, and it continues to be a focus of our work. So we actually spent some time, we're part of a media literacy network in Ireland called Media Literacy Ireland. And that's a network made up of broadcasters, local and regional radio stations, libraries, children's organisations, and wider organisations promoting media literacy for all. So we worked on a national campaign called Be Media Smart, which was targeted to the general public, I suppose highlighting the importance of checking where your information comes from. And there's some really simple and key advice that we gave in there. And it's all based around stop, think, check, a really kind of simple, helpful message. To support this, we also provided some kind of helpful advice and tips for parents, and I suppose understanding and recognising false information, why spreading false information can be problematic, the impacts that might have. And we also have resources for young people as well. So another important topic that we've been addressing throughout the year. So I'm actually going to hand it over to the audience for a minute, because I think it's really important to kind of hear from parents what your concerns are. So we've set up a Menti there. So if you go to menti.com and you enter the code in there, and I think Katrina might pop it in the chat box as well, 2861570. And just if you could answer the question, as a parent, what is your main online safety concern? I'm going to give you a minute or two to do that. So what is your main online safety concern? I think it's good to hear from the audience and hear what's your top priority, and hopefully we'll be addressing that as we go through some of the practical steps and advice. So I'll give you a minute there to fill that in. So it's menti.com 2861570. Okay, so hopefully you've had a chance to fill that out, and we will return to have a look at what the results are there. Before we take a look at our topic of online wellbeing and some of the advice, I'm going to, I suppose, kind of paint a picture of the landscape in Ireland, what young people are doing online, and I suppose what are some of the concerns and challenges we're seeing here. So a recent report from CyberSafe Ireland, published this in 2020, highlighted 93% of children aged 8 to 12 own a smart device in Ireland. So that is quite a high figure of smart device usage. 65% of that age group have their own social media and or messaging account, and that's despite most age restrictions being 13 and the digital age of consent in Ireland being set at 16. 1 in 3 preteens has been upset by content encounters online. TikTok is the most popular social media site in Ireland. I'd love to hear what the most popular sites are across Europe for teens and children. It became very popular this year in the pandemic, particularly with older and adults as well. Online gaming is very popular in Ireland. This is something that's particularly popular among this age group. And Minecraft, Roblox and Fortnite being the most popular games. 31% of children game with people they don't know in real life, and 61% of children reported being contacted by a stranger in a game. But that's not to say that has automatically led to risk or harm. And our colleagues in the Anti-Bullying and Research and Resource Centre actually carried out some research during the pandemic, which is really valuable information to get. So 28% of 10 to 18-year-old children in this sample reported to have been victims of cyberbullying during lockdown, and 50% reported to have seen others being cyberbullied. The research found that almost 66% of children between the age of 14 and 16 reported being bullied, stated it was more prevalent on private messaging apps, so things like WhatsApp and Viber. And so this, unsurprisingly, 71% of children and young people said they use their smartphones more than ever during lockdown. So just, I suppose, a bit of a context for the space in Ireland, what it's looking like. And obviously it does see, cyberbullying is an issue and seems to have been on the increase during the pandemic from the research there. And back in 2017, so this is prior the pandemic, prior any crisis, the top concerns for Irish parents were cyberbullying, spending too much time online grooming, exploitation, and accessing inappropriate content. And we actually worked with the Council of Europe over the summer on a digital citizenship education survey. So I think we had 800 respondents, parents in Ireland, complete this survey. And like I said, it is really interesting to get this kind of information and research during the pandemic when we were all spending more time online. And it covered off things like distance learning as well. So 59% parents answering that this was a new experience, but they were coping well. So quite a positive attitude towards distance learning, but recognise there is room for improvement as well. The main activities children use the internet for, and I'm sure this is probably the same in your own countries. 30% watch videos or listening to music, 23% play games, 16% explore educational or other resources for their homework, 16% communicate with friends via email, instant messaging and chat. And some of the challenges, again, unsurprisingly, lack of face-to-face contact with other children, which has been a huge barrier this year for families, trying to juggle your work with your children's homework and childcare and all that's brought up this year. Also, balancing screen time with physical activities as well. And we know, we've talked to parents in schools throughout the year, and we know this is a big concern this year. And I suppose the important thing to remember is we do need to give ourselves a break. This has been a year like no other. So interestingly enough, the Irish parents are quite good at setting rules and speaking to their child. So the kind of most common rules Irish parents have for children: always ask me if they encounter something weird or scary online, respect safety rules, to act ethically and responsibly online, to ask me before sharing any personal information online. And topics parents talk to their children about. Irish parents are privacy is a big concern, an important topic for parents in Ireland. How to protect their privacy and the privacy of others, rights and responsibilities online, how to behave appropriately and lawfully and respect others online. And for topics that parents wanted more info in Ireland, so privacy again up there, how to deal with bullying incidents, and that kind of reflects the previous research before the pandemic in 2017. Bullying is a big concern for parents here, understanding digital footprint and maintaining a good online reputation, and how to help children become good digital citizens. So I'm going to go back to our Menti results, and it's just interesting to see how they look compared to some of the research we've looked at. So I'm just going to stop sharing and get up the Menti poll here. Stop sharing. Share. No. Okay. So hopefully you can see that okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Katrina. Okay, so that's, yeah. So similarly enough, bullying, you can see there is one of the biggest concerns, but also harassment, grooming as well. So these match very similarly with the concerns of parents in Ireland, false information that we spoke about there as well, inappropriate content, reasonable time per day. So that question around screen time, again, very important and something we talk a lot to parents about. Violence and porn, addiction, so spending too much time online, TikTok as well, manipulation, pornography again, intrusion of third parties, fraud, yes, absolutely, and too much time, and appropriate content for kids to access as well. Yeah, so very similar to concerns we would see and things we talk to parents about in Ireland and that our resources would deal with as well. So thank you for sharing that with us. I'm going to go back to the presentation here. Apologies, I am new to WebEx, so this is all a little alien to me. So you're sharing, stop sharing your screen and share your... And I need to talk my way through it as I do the things as well. It helps me. Yeah. So look, I'm conscious we have focused a little on the risks. We've talked about what children and teens are doing online. We've talked about the risks, we've talked about the concerns, the challenges, but I think it's really, really important, and we should continue to remember this, that the benefits far outweigh the risks of the internet and digital technologies, and we do only need to look at the role technology has played in our lives this year. So there's so many benefits to it, and it is part of their world as well. So, you know, it's for learning, for entertainment, for creativity, for connecting, for developing new skills. It is really, really important that we remember that. And I think there's a lot of scaremongering around the internet sometimes, and sometimes the media doesn't help either. But it is really important to remember, for the most part, for young people, going online is a positive and useful experience, and they do require digital skills to participate in the world now as well. So I'm going to hand you over to Katrina, who's going to look at one of our big topics this year in a bit more detail. Thanks, Katrina.
Thanks, Jane. So as Jane has outlined, online wellbeing was one of the issues that was highlighted to us over the past 12 months. And as you've already heard, part of our work involves youth participation, and we work with the WebWise Youth Panel, who are a group of young people from different backgrounds from all over Ireland. And it helps us to better understand the issues that are impacting on teenagers. And in meetings with them in April last year, they highlighted that online wellbeing was an issue that their peers were dealing with, and that piece around building digital resilience. And on the screen next, you'll see some responses from young people about what online wellbeing means to them. And we'll pause just for a minute to allow you to have the opportunity to look through them. And as you can see from them, it's a nuanced topic, and people take different things from it. But I think what is common across them is that it's about striking a healthy balance. And so this is a topic that the young people have been very passionate about, and it's been a focus for us for the past year. And to address it, we decided to make it the theme of our annual social media campaign, which is something that we do every year. So, for example, in previous years, we've addressed issues like cyberbullying and online harassment, online exploitation and coercion, and non-consensual image sharing amongst teens. And this year, the campaign addressed online well-being and the impact that the online world and social media, maybe in particular, can have on a young person's self-esteem. So the online influences that they face and the pressures that this can create. Teenagers, both boys and girls, are increasingly being exposed to content from a wide range of sources, whether it's influencers or the media or even their peers. And I suppose the consistent theme is the promotion of idealized images and body image standards and lifestyle standards, and an encouragement then to pursue what's seen as perfection or an unrealistic sense of normal. And this can be seen in the need for affirmation on social media. So maybe getting caught up in a numbers game in the pursuit of likes and comments, and the desire often to build personal brands. And these pressures and influences can lead young people to aspire to ideals that for many reasons are unattainable and unrealistic. And we've even had feedback from young people who understand that, life online is curated to a certain extent, but regardless, it still causes them to feel pressure. So, as I said, it's a nuanced issue, but it was one that we were very keen to explore this year. And right now, it seems particularly relevant given the amount of time that young people, that we all are spending online, and the importance of that piece around managing our online well-being. So, in terms of the objectives that we laid out for the campaign, what we wanted to do was to raise awareness amongst Irish teenagers about image pressures online, and to challenge these concepts and to promote confidence by encouraging critical thinking around the content that they encounter online. And as I said, whether that's content from influencers or celebrities or the media, and to a large extent from their peers as well. So it was very important to us that it struck the right tone also, and that it wasn't preachy or judgmental, and that it was an empathetic and a realistic reflection of real life experiences. And we also didn't want to suggest that social media is a negative thing. We wanted to acknowledge the power that it has to keep us connected. We've seen that more than ever over the past 12 months, and the role that it has as well in mobilizing people to take positive actions too. But while taking this into account, our objective was to encourage and to empower young people to see the full picture and to look beyond what they see in a post. And the focal point for the campaign is a short film called The Full Picture, and it essentially highlights that what you see online doesn't always show the whole story. So while social media is fantastic for lots of reasons, the campaign just nudges people to think critically about what they see in their news feeds, and just to bear in mind that what we see is what people want us to see, and it's not a full picture of what their life is. The film is about 2 minutes long, and we're going to play it for you now. We'll also include a link in the chat as well in case anyone has any issues seeing it. So we'll just do that now.
No.
Thanks, Jay.
See you, Bob.
Right, I would say hi.
Remember, guys, stay true, be you, and keep smiling.
Thanks, Jane. The supporting the campaign actually includes it also includes a lot of supporting materials for young people, but also for teachers and for parents around that piece about encouraging and fostering positive self-esteem online for their children. And I think it's been a good example of a campaign that we've run that's really connected with parents this year, and also with teachers as well. So it is one that it was obviously for the Irish context, but I think it's something that is probably a universal conversation, and we're going to include the link to the campaign materials as well if anyone would like to access those.
Thanks, Katrina. I might just get you to share.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
You can see that?
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for that. I hope you enjoyed the campaign video. That it's one we really enjoyed working on this year, and I think it because it covers a very relevant topic for our young people this year, and it was great to have the youth voice so central throughout the campaign. So I suppose now to the what can you do? The steps parents can take. I think it's important to recognise that all families are different, have different approaches to technology, and it's important to recognise the good job that we're all doing in this space. When we talk to parents in schools, it's not about judging or making judgments. This technology and the internet is an ever-changing space. And as June alluded to, we didn't grow up with this. It doesn't come as naturally to us. And we have faced significant challenges this year. So, it is important to recognise that parents are doing good work in this space, and to give yourself a break, because we can be very hard on ourselves when it comes to this. So I suppose the point of the next bit now is to give you some practical, simple steps and considerations for how you can support your child online. So if we just go to the next slide there. So step one, get informed. As I said, technology and the internet may not feel like the most natural space for us, that we don't know as much about it. Often parents feel like their child or their teens know more about this. But I suppose it's important to remember, for most children, the internet is a big part of their worlds. It's important to them, and it's important that we engage with them and support them to make the most of their time online. And the best way to approach this is the same way you approach other areas of parenting and safety with your child or teenager. And a great starting point is our hub for parents, the WebWise hub for parents. And you would probably have similar supports through your Safer Internet Centre. So that's the first starting point we would recommend parents to go to. There's advice articles there, there's explainer guides. I've seen somebody mention TikTok there, that's explained on the website. Those guides are kind of written in plain English, jargon free. They cover the main features of all the apps or the games, and provide key safety advice and information for parents. So if your teen is using Instagram or Snapchat and TikTok, and you're like, I don't really know that much about it, there is lots of helpful information and advice there. It's a great starting point. And as I said, there's similar supports across Europe and on the Better Internet for Kids platform as well. Another really great tip for parents is talk to other parents. Sometimes we can forget about this, or, we could just, focus on our own families. This is a really great way of figuring out strategies together. Peer support is a huge help for parents. So, for example, on things like, using social media for the first time, it's great to talk to your friends, other peers, what they're doing in this space, and what their experiences are as well. There can be a lot of learnings in that. So step 2, have the chat. We'll go to the next slide. And I think this is probably the most important thing parents could do. If you do anything the best thing you can do is start the conversation, have regular discussions with your child. Don't be too critical in your teens' exploration of the internet as well. This is something that is part of their world. It's something they're interested in, and they will have very different interests to us as well. And be realistic in your assessment of how your child uses the internet as well. Be involved, ask them about their interests. This is a great way to build open and honest discussions. And for parents of teens, the important topics of conversation are, talking about privacy, what types of information you're sharing on what online, what types of information it's okay to share online, making friends online, who they're connecting with online, being kind and respectful online. That thing about being a good digital citizen, really important. Images as well. This is another big topic. It's a very kind of big concern parents would have here in Ireland as well. So, about image sharing and consent. Also, what to do if something goes wrong online. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And that thing about balance as well. How you're spending your time online, how it's making you feel. And it's also important to remember that it's never too late to have a chat with your child. And we're going to show a really great video from one of our parent experts and talking to your teen about consent online. So I'll just bring that up now.
When it comes to technology, because maybe we're not au fait with the apps, we're not au fait with the platforms, we find it difficult. But just opening that dialogue with them, because regarding it as an interest of theirs that we are interested and curious about, I think will enable the dialogue and the trust to develop and the understanding. And I think that'll take away a lot of the fear that we have, or the feeling of being overwhelmed by all of the technologies that are available to them, and keeping the conversation going. If we can encourage our children and support them through it being okay to say, no, I don't want that. No, I'm not comfortable. No, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to go there. And also accepting, hearing no, that it's not a reflection or a rejection of them. It's not a reflection of their worth. It's just that the person you're asking something of doesn't want to do it now. They may never want to do it, but they may feel like doing it tomorrow. So that it's okay to hear the word no, and it's perfectly okay to say the word no.
So I'm conscious of time, so I'm just going to pause the video there, and we'll return to the slides. Thanks, Katrina.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so step 3, agree rules. So try to reach an agreement with your child on guidelines which apply to the internet in your household. And here are some tips to get started. Discuss when and how long it's acceptable for your teen to use the internet. This is a little harder today because there is more screen time. But in particular, for teens, we would say around bedtime is a really important time. Have a kind of cut-off point where the internet goes off or the phones go out of bedrooms. Use an old, a traditional alarm clock in the room so that we can kind of, have a proper cut-off time for the internet. And we should also remember that a lot of the sites and social media networks our teens spend their time on are very cleverly designed to make us spend as much time as possible online. And there's some very sophisticated psychology behind that. And this is something adults struggle with. So it's next to impossible for children and teens to kind of regulate. So they do require support in this, and we'll welcome guidelines in this. Agree about how to treat personal information, images, names, things like that, and discuss how to behave towards others when gaming online, chatting online, messaging. The next step is asking for help. Again, really important. Sometimes a child or a teen may not speak up to a parent about a bad experience they've had online. And this should link back to your agreement that you've made with your child. Don't wait for something to go wrong before addressing this. If they feel they can talk to you about the online habits without judgment or threat of being disconnected, it'll lead to more honesty in the long run. Ensure they know what to do if something goes wrong, where to go. Reassure your child that if anything happens that they are not comfortable with for any reason, they should not be embarrassed and come to speak to you about it. And reassure your child that you'll work through whatever the issue is together. And that will empower your child to gain confidence in managing their lives online. Step 5, lead by example. Our children learn from us as role models. So, and we spoke about rules. It's really important that we follow the rules to model good behaviour. So, for example, if there is a rule around devices at the dinner table, follow those rules, and ensure you're sticking to the rules as well. Or if you're breaking them, have a reason why you're not following the rules and communicate that. Be a good digital citizen, promote respect and consent. And a good example of this is we talk to our youth panel a lot about image sharing, and they get quite frustrated with parents taking their pictures and pushing them up on social media without asking them. So this is an important kind of lesson and example to set for your child. If you're taking photos of your family and putting them up on social media, ask them, are they okay with that? And that teaches them a really great lesson around consent and image sharing. Finally, the last step is join in. As I said, remember the positive aspects of the internet outweigh the negatives. It's an excellent tool for recreation, for learning, for being creative. And when you can let your child show you what they like to do online, we'd also say encourage active rather than passive use of the internet. Our experts and the research tells us that if we were purposeful in our use of the internet and social media, it can be a really helpful and good positive experiences. And one of the things we were struck by this year from our youth panel was how much they wanted to help parents understand their worlds. So do keep interested, keep involved, and keep talking. I'm going to leave it at there because I'm conscious of time as well. So apologies, I do know I've run over. Do take a look at the WebWise Parents Hub there. There's lots of helpful information. Thanks.
Thanks, Jane, very much. And thanks, Katrina, as well. I'm going to hand straight over to Carl because although we've just done a tour of quite a few problems, there are some great resources out there, as we've seen WebWise in Ireland, but also on the Better Internet for You Kids. So, Carl, over to you.
Thanks so much, June. I'll be really brief because I'd love to have some time for some more questions. As June said, we have this amazing Better Internet for Kids portal. Many of the questions that have come up in the chat have said, where can we get more information? Where can we find out some really great resources and strategies? Well, this is the place, and several of the slides will have the address at the top in a moment. It represents the InSafe network, which is the safer internet centres around Europe, which have 4 main parts. Awareness raising, so this is where you'll find the resources and the guides and how the different apps work and things like that. The helplines, which is where our young people can actually go to get help and support if they have a problem and they feel they can't talk to us as their parents. There is somewhere else that they can go. Hotlines, which deal with the illegal content, and also youth coordinators as well, because as Jane and Katrina have both said, the voice of young people is so important in everything that we do. We collect data from the helplines. We do that every 3 months, and you can look to see what the key issues are in your country. You can compare and contrast, to see the differences across countries. And as June's just pointed out, thank you, June, parents and teachers are also able to, contact these helplines as well. It's not just for young people, of course. We collect the data. In terms of a summary for 2020, cyberbullying, it came up as your key concern. It's the key issue for our young people as well. That is the main thing that they get in touch with helplines about, followed by, issues around their online reputation, their digital footprint, and a real key one, and this has been the case for many years, issues around love and relationships and those things that teenagers, have always found very difficult to manage. So there's the web address, and You can, tell the portal, if that makes sense, whether you're a young person, a parent, whether you're a teacher, and then we will curate content that we think is going to be useful for you. So with parents, lots of articles, trying to, I guess, react to the current situation. Lots of questions in there about screen time. How am I supposed to manage this when my child is supposed to be online for 6 hours a day doing remote learning? Absolutely understandable. And, we've spoken to some of the experts from our Safer Internet centres to try and provide information that we think will be useful. Again, I think there was a question before, how are we supposed to keep up? They're using all of these different platforms. How on earth do we, sort of even understand how they work or what they're about? We've got on the portal a guide to apps. This has grown over the years. You can search for an app by name or by type. So here's a selection of some of the social media platforms, the popular ones, but equally some that you may not have heard of. And in there, we'll tell you a little bit about the app and how it works and perhaps some of the things to be watchful of. But also there's links directly to their privacy pages, their safety centres, and usually guides for parents to download as well. Just a couple of other things before I pass back to June. If you want to find information for a specific country, you can do that. We list all of the countries in the InSafe network. You can click on that and be taken directly to, the Belgian Safer Internet Centre, the Luxembourgish Safer Internet Centre, whatever it is that's going to be most useful to you. I said that we have all these resources. You can search on the type of resource that you might want, something about cyberbullying or screen time. You can search on language or on the age of your child, which I think is really helpful. And finally, COVID-19, we can't ignore it. It's been mentioned so many times. The Safer Internet Centres have just done an amazing amount of work trying to support not just young people, but parents, teachers, all stakeholders with how to manage some of this. We've got a little section of the Better Internet for Kids portal which tries to showcase these, and there's so much information there, about the types of platforms that schools are using, what parents need to know about how to set them up safely. So I'll leave it there. I'm sorry that was such a run through, but I'm just conscious of time, so I'll pass back to you, June.
Thanks very much, Carl. It was, and really, I can only encourage people to go and explore the Better Internet for Kids portal after this session or over the weekend, because there really is a wealth of information there. One question that I think has cropped up quite a bit in the chat is really this issue that we all struggle with, and I have a grown-up child and I'm still struggling with, which is the obligation to study online, school or university, and yet the distraction of games, videos, and the entertainment side of things. And we have to trust our kids quite often because we're working ourselves online and we can't be standing over their shoulder. And yet how do we know what we're doing, and how do we react when we find that they're not doing what we want them to be doing? So I don't know if Carl or Jane or Katrina, one of you would like to take that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a common concern, Jude, and there's much more time online. It's hard to kind of switch off from entertainment and stuff. I suppose it goes back to agree in your rules, agree in your guidelines around boundaries and when it's okay to be doing certain activities. But it is also important to recognise that children and teenagers do get a lot out of gaming and entertainment as well. So it's not to say that those are negative activities, but I suppose it's figuring out, an appropriate time schedule that works for everybody, and the difference between schoolwork and entertainment as well, and making those clear kind of boundaries, and that your child or teen understands that as well.
Carl, anything to add to that?
I think it is just about, doing some of these things together. I think we shouldn't beat ourselves up too much at the moment because this is so difficult for everybody. And I think, even before we had COVID-19, the experts were saying, actually, screen time is probably the wrong metric. We need to look at the quality of those interactions, as I think was said earlier.
Yeah. I mean, I must say, I'm speaking personally here as well, that it is difficult, I think, because at least when in the good old days, pre-COVID, children were in the safe hands of teachers, they were at school, and although there might have been some discussion about, taking your telephone into the classroom and things like that, it was on such a different scale to what we are now, and when children are online, you don't really know if they're online, and teachers don't always know if they're online or if they're sort of on there, have gone back to their bed, or they're playing on something else and they've got the computer on, but actually they're on their phone doing something else. And I think that really is very challenging for parents to handle, and also to handle without just exploding, which is, quite a natural reaction, I think, in the circumstances. There was another question which I think maybe you'd like to address, which was a bit of the sort of what I would describe as the nuclear option, saying how do we, is actually denial of service, sort of withdrawing or threatening to withdraw the phone, a good thing to mention or not? What's your expert views on that, please?
I think sorry, Jane, go on, you go first.
Oh, no, sorry, Carl. Yeah, so this is the common concern, and it's the common go-to option that can be very attractive. But I suppose the experts and the research tells us that this isn't the best option, and that it might, in fact, make our children or teens avoid telling us if something's happened online. So the threat of technology being taken away might bring up the walls a bit more. So it isn't the best approach. The advice is have regular conversations, be involved, check in, and keep talking as well, and reassure that your child that if something does come up, because these things will naturally come up as well, that they can talk to you and you'll work through it together. Okay, thanks. Carl, did you want to complete that?
I think the only bit I would add to that is that I think it's a very big consequence to take that away from them. It's not like taking a book or a toy car, when I was a child. And I think especially at the moment when probably social media is the only way they can interact with their peers, which is really important. So I'm not saying we should never do it. I think sometimes there is a reason to do that. But I think at the moment it's probably a real nuclear option, as you say, June.
I think we're really running out of time, so I just wonder if the three of you could give us sort of a last sentence or two on really top tips for parents. What's your best advice for parents in terms of what to do with teenage or secondary school children in the current circumstances? Who wants to go first? Katrina?
Thanks, June. I think I think to realize that there are supports out there, if you've got a question, if you've got a query, if you've got a concern, whether it's someone in Ireland going to our website or going to the Better Internet for Kids website, there is support available. It's just to know where to go. So I think that is one of the biggest pieces of advice that I would have.
Good advice. Jane?
Yeah, so I'm going to sound like a broken record, but keep the conversation going, or start that conversation. It's never late to start the conversation, check in, and keep involved.
Wise words. And Carl, give you the last word.
Thank you. I guess, to echo what Katrina and Jane have said, but I think, keep the conversations going. And when children do come and talk to you, don't overreact, because they're coming to talk to you and say that there's a problem because they need a bit of support and guidance. Otherwise, they wouldn't have bothered. So I think we have to react in the right way and listen to them.
Yeah, you told us a lovely story this morning about something that happened recently about don't shout, but instead.
Yes, there was some research that was done, and they were talking to young people about what they wanted from their parents when they went and spoke to them, and they said, we wanted them to listen and understand and give us a hug rather than actually fly off the handle and bawl and shout at us. So it's an important message, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a nice message to end on, that even in these digital times, there's nothing quite like a hug, and especially a hug from your mum and dad, and understanding that, kids in these age groups, it's a time when traditionally you could make mistakes and you learn from your mistakes. And the trouble now is that often it feels like those mistakes are going to live with you forever. But actually, even if you share something inappropriate, even if stuff gets posted, which seems like horrendous problems to young people, we can do action. This is why the reporting lines that are shown on all these apps that Carl's demonstrated, knowing who to contact or contacting the helplines for more specific advice is a very, very useful help for parents in that situation. Yep. Any other final words? Thank you all very, very much. It's been a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but I hope there is some value in seeing that, parents, when you're not alone, you're not the only family facing these problems. We're all wrestling really with the same sort of situations, and there is a lot of advice and there's a lot of material out there. So I hope you will definitely all now go to betterinternetforkids.eu, and the recording of this presentation will be available probably as of next week. Okay, thank you all very, very much for your attention, and I wish you a very happy and hopefully sunny weekend wherever you are. Bye-bye.